What is up, tiny humans? With great power comes great stability. So zip your face and let's go do a stability day, boys. I call this day a stability day, but my coach labeled it as a cardio acrobatics day. And both of those are actually misnomers because it's not really a cardio day and it's not really entirely a stability day, but my term is a little better than coach's, so he can get on my level. So the reason that stability and cardio are important towards getting stronger is because the heavier you get, the more variables that you have to deal with when it comes to lifting weights, because you get whip going on in the bar. And whip is the hardest variable to deal with because there's no other way to reduce the amount of whip that's on a bar, especially when it comes to squats. You walk it out and it start jumping all over the place, and you got to wait for the bar to settle before you start squatting. The only way is to get a stiffer bar, but kabuki, being the little tiny dick assholes that they are, they keep throwing out these super soft bars with tons of bar whip, and they donate them to meets. Meat directors are like, hey, free bars, let's use these at a meet. And so now they're one of the most popular bars, even though they should never be on the market. But today, we're working on a lot of stability, and it's I don't want to say it's cardio. It's more of like a glycolytic energy system kind of utilization of the muscles. So there's a lot of stuff where it's going to be 45 seconds constant work. There's going to be stuff where it's like 20 reps and then we slow it down and we do 5 more reps, 0 acceleration. Everything has a tempo. And a lot of the times the tempo is going to be 0 acceleration, which means you go down, you go up the same tempo. And you try to control it. You try to not allow gravity to win the battle, and you try to make gravity your bitch, right? So first exercise we have is leg curls. So we just got it set up, and we don't have a lot of weight on here because we're doing 45 seconds constant work. So the thing about lifting is that there are multiple different kind of phases of lift while you're doing a lift. There's a start phase where you're completely locked out, your muscle is at a full stretch. That is also the end point, and it is probably one of the most important points because the better the stretch you get, the better gains you get from the movement. And you get the contraction phase where you're basically pulling, you're kind of flexing your muscles, and that's important. There's the almost like a top phase where it's either at the top or a bottom of a movement where you're fully flexed, you've got the full range of motion, you hold that for a moment. And that is the third phase. And the fourth and final phase is the eccentric part where you are releasing the flex, but the more you control it, the better you get. And a lot of exercise scientists have done studies and research and things and have proven that about 55% of your gains that you get from lifting comes from that eccentric phase. So we're doing 45 seconds. We're focusing on 0 tempo. So we're controlling both the contraction and the not flexion, but the stretch and compress. And we're also doing it for timed, which means that we're kind of leaning into the hypoxic response, which means that we are reducing the amount of oxygen in the muscles, because every time you contract a muscle, you also utilize oxygen. And the way that your body gets more oxygen to your muscles is through blood flow. When you increase the stretch, you increase the micro tears that happen naturally while you're lifting. You increase the amount of blood flow, you increase the size of the pump. So everything kind of blows up when you slow things down a bit and you do it for longer. And it's not about moving weight anymore. It's about controlling the weight, and controlling the weight means you get bigger. So this is a stability day. And a lot of the hypoxic stuff, the constant time under tension stuff, leans into the glycolytic energy system, the ATP, the phosphate energy system. The glycolytic energy system is the process that your body uses to convert glycogen into energy, which means that you intake carbohydrates. Your body stores it in your muscles as glycogen. Your muscles hold on to water because you've got that glycogen. And then the way that ATP works, it turns into ADP through nuclear fission, and that little discharge of energy that happens when you knock off a phosphate group from an ATP and turn it into ADP is the output of energy that you get from that phosphate group. And creatine also allows you to hold on to more water, because the way that your body recovers from that nuclear fission of the water molecule from the phosphate group is by replacing it with another water molecule. And so creatine is the first responder basically to that. So it increases your endurance because it's first there. But when you have an extended kind of recovery time in between sets, you're able to lean more into the glycolysis. You've got that extended, so you utilize all the creatine that you have, and then you start working on all the other energy systems, the glycogen and the glycolic energy systems going on there. So a lot of information real fast, and I'm totally not procrastinating on doing this. But we've got 4 by 45 seconds with this, and I'm going to show you guys the first set. You guys saw me set it up. I think we only have 8, 9, 10, 110 pounds on this, but it's not about the weight that's on the machine, because the better, this isn't a strengthening kind of thing. It's a muscle development thing where you're kind of thinking, aren't those the same thing? But no, it's not. Muscles allow you to be stronger, but you have to build the muscle first before you kind of allocate it towards hyperplasia or hypertrophy. So you build the muscle, and then you kind of point and click, like old school Warcraft or RuneScape, where you want to allocate that by the things that you do. So we've got the Fitbit timer going on right here. We've got it set up for 45 seconds, and away we go. Feel a nice big stretch. And the good thing about this, even if you're not doing a tempo, is it doesn't really matter what the tempo is, or I mean, it does matter what the tempo is, but regardless, you're going to be leaning into that hypoxic and glycolic response because of the way that just the time under tension. So you can bust these out and get like 50 reps in 45 seconds, or you could take it slower and kind of lean into that muscle control, lean into the difference between your fast twitch and your slow twitch muscles, and kind of get a better result, because there's a biological difference between males and females. Well, that was pretty quick, 45 seconds. Females are better at glycolic work, whereas males are better at muscle recruitment, just biologically. So if you look at all those arguments about males transitioning to females without chopping their dicks off, that's all bullshit, because at a basic level, males and females are inherently different. 4:30, so 90 seconds rest. So females, if you're programming a female, you kind of lean into the glycolic work, or that's what they're going to be inherently better at. Like, you can see a female who benches 150, they'll be able to bust out 135 for 2 or 3. You add 5 pounds, maybe they get stapled after 2 reps, and you add 5 pounds onto their max, they can't even get it off their chest. But male lifters are going to be able to lean a little into the more muscle recruitment and the explosive part of lifting. So, and they're going to suck at the glycolic or glycogen utilization, your body's ability to utilize carbs for energy. And their 1 rep, the range that they can do 1 rep for is massive. Whereas the female, that range is small. So male lifters, female lifters, they are inherently different. And it's something to consider when you are programming them, because they are different. And it's kind of important to consider these things when you look at male lifters versus female lifters, because they're, even if they are taking the same hormones, like an enhanced female lifter, it's still going to have that natural biological response to consider. So I'm going to do my next 3 sets, and we're going to get, I got 3 more sets, and then we're on to the next movement. Last movement, we leaned into the kind of glycolytic structure of the way that we lift. And this one, same kind of deal, where we do have a timed amount of work where we're doing 45 seconds of load, but we've busted out the squat shoes. We compete in squat shoes. So this next movement's the goblet squat. So we want to be able to kind of imitate platform conditions as much as possible. So we're doing a squat movement, any sort of movement where you're squatting and you compete in squat shoes, you should have your squat shoes on, right? So this movement is intended to kind of have you think a little bit more about bodily control, where the your center of gravity is very important to be centralized on your foot. Now, if you're in flat feet, that centralized kind of center of mass is supposed to be in the middle of your foot, where that's going to be the best place for your body to have an accurate kind of optimized kind of thrust out of the hole and energy output, and you're able to kind of tap into your leverage is a bit better. The center of the foot is that spot. Now, lifting shoes have a heel. A heel turns the bottom of your foot from a rectangle into a triangle. And this changes where your center of gravity should be. And if you have any sort of background in geometry, you would know that point, the center of mass, if you study geometry or statics or physics, you would know that center of mass on a triangle is called a centroid, which is in the back third of the one of the lengths congruent to a 90-degree angle, because basically the length of your foot is one of those lengths. The vertical of your shin is going to be or up towards your calf is going to be one of those other vertical points, and the hypotenuse is actually where your foot is. It's your actual foot. So it's going to be in the back third of that. The more of a heel you have, the further back that centroid becomes, just because of the way that proportionality happens in a triangle, right? So we're doing goblet squats, and we're trying to kind of focus on the center of mass where we are. And there's other movements that are pretty good for pointing out where your center of mass is. There's this one thing that my coach likes to call roller coasters, because if you don't have a very good mind muscle connection to your body, and you're not able to kind of connect into your balance and the stability factor of your feet, it kind of throws you around like you're on a roller coaster. And roller coasters, you basically get onto one foot, and you can see a little bit of wobble going on. You kind of RDL down, and you've got a weight in your hands, and you tilt it back and forth. And if you could see my foot, which you probably can't, you would know that the ankle is doing a lot of stability work, and we're working on building that mind muscle connection. And right now, what we're doing by doing this is we're kind of warming up those muscles, those stability muscles, and we're going to be leaning into that stability aspect when we're doing this goblet squat for time. So what I struggle with when I'm on the platform is I tend to have my center of mass a little bit too far forward. I squatted barefoot, no squat heels, for 7-8 years. And I only just put on the squat heels. So even when I was in barefoot, I still had a habit of getting too far forward onto my toes. And what I need to work on, what this is going to help me work on, is build the not energy structures, but the myelin, which is the kind of insulation on your nerve endings that builds up muscle memory. And we're building up myelin to teach myself to sit back more. Kind of bars that will kind of do that is things like the safety squat bar, the spider bar. So we kind of, and having the load in front of you makes you have to be more upright and sit back more onto your heels, kind of get onto that centroid of your foot. So we got to change the Fitbit from 45 seconds to 50 seconds. I have to poop. Yeah, I'm good. So because it takes time for me to pick up the dumbbell and actually get my feet set. So I kind of say that that's about 5 seconds. Yeah, I have to poop. And we want to be cueing ourselves. Everything outside of the arms, we want to cue ourselves to imitate our regular squat. So proud chest, eyes up, and kind of feel that center of gravity in your heels. And it's probably going to be a good idea to kind of press your big toe and your pinky toe into the ground and lift up the rest of your toes, kind of making a triangle of pressure points between your toes and your heel. So I've got 3 more sets of that. 90 seconds rest. I've already pooped twice today, but I'm probably going to poop a 3rd time before our next movement. I did happen to poop a little on that last set, on the first rep. So I'd best believe my sphincter control was chef kiss. Now, this is the movement that I believe is the only movement that I would agree with Coach that it's cardio acrobatics, right? So this is called either quadruped or quadruped zero acceleration rows. So basically what happens is you do a dumbbell row, right? Except instead of having a foot on the ground, a lot of people, so when people do dumbbell rows, they'll put a knee on a bench like this, right? But a quadruped row, you're basically going to take away that kind of stabilizing leg and you're going to utilize all the stabilizers in your upper body. So you're going to have a hand down. I got chalky hands, so I'll have a fist down. And in addition, you want the dumbbell or whatever implement you're using. It can probably be a kettlebell if that'll be easier for you, if you have access to them. We only have one kettlebell at this gym and it's way too heavy for me to do this. So you want the majority of the mass to be away from your hand. So we're basically feeding 2 or 3 birds with 1 scone. I got a little too excited with the pastries on there. But so you lift your foot up, you've got the mass further away from you, and we're also doing zero acceleration. We're doing sets of 10, and then we swap over. And that's the movement. And it's a little more difficult. It is way more difficult than any other type of rows that I've ever done, mostly because you're working on the stabilizers in the forearms by doing the hex grip or the dumbbell head grip, which you not everyone's going to be able to have access to that. It's kind of like a cheap dumbbell kind of thing, as well as having the zero acceleration. So you really want to feel the lat contraction and the stretch, and also you're going to be activating your entire core like a fucking xylophone, and every single bit of it is going to be flashing. If we had probes on me, I am making all this Italian talking is making this chalk just die on my hands. If we had probes on me, it'd look like a fucking Christmas tree lighting up, because it'd be like this one here, and it'd be like. So doing sets of 10, switch sides. So I don't like to grab the numbers. And to finish up, we threw in some internal rotations using the cable machine so that we can work on the stability and the health of the shoulder girdle. Because if you think about it, when you're squatting, you kind of have to abuse your shoulder girdle to get your hands in place so that you can put the bar on your back. You have to abuse your shoulder girdle when you do the bench press because, I mean, everything you do in the bench is abused by that shoulder girdle. Such a strange word, girdle. But so internal rotations are a really light movement. We did 5 by 25, 30 seconds rest, 25 reps per side. And I started off with 10 pounds and I was getting too big of a pump where I was approaching failure too consistently. So we dropped it down to 5 pounds per side. And it's back when I first started lifting, I was like, why do we do these exercises that are just so minimal in weight? Like using 2.5 pounds for things like this, because I remember doing kind of a similar movement back in high school, back when I was doing ice hockey, and we had internal rotation with a 2.5 pound plate. And I was like, this is a stupid movement. Why don't we just add weight to everything? And as I've matured and grown through lifting, I've learned the small things add up to a lot of big things. So your base floor is of strength is determined by your weakest muscle groups, and the stronger you can make those weaker muscle groups, the bigger you can get them to be, the more stable you're gonna end up being. And that's the name of the game. You increase your stability, and eventually you'll get to the point where you're stable enough to be lifting bigger and heavier weights, and it extends your upper range a little bit more. And then we moved on to the dumbbell curls. Now, it was 20 reps of dumbbell curls and supersetted with dumbbell curls, 0 acceleration for 5 reps. So it's 25 total reps of dumbbell curls. And if you'll notice, at the bottom, I have my palms facing inwards. And at the top, I have the palms facing as upwards as possible, because part of the bicep muscle group, part of what that does is the twisting of your forearm. And if you want to maximize the amount of strength, the amount of gains, the amount of bicep muscles that you are utilizing while doing any sort of curl movement, you've got to have some sort of a twist in your forearm going on there, which is why when you're deadlifting, your underhand is at risk for tearing your bicep, because it's in that, I don't know, I'm not nerdy enough to know the difference between pronated or supernated. I just know that they qualify as words in this situation. But your underhand is that twisting adds tension to your bicep. And if you don't take care of your biceps, you let your biceps get really tight. Don't grow your biceps at all by being small and weak and not very breedable. You end up putting your bicep in a disadvantageous spot when deadlifting. So it's important to work biceps. It's also um, a, a part of the body that you can leverage yourself off of, to push off of when it comes to benching too. It's almost like, why can you floor press more than you can regular bench press? I don't know if that's a common problem or just a me problem, but I've noticed that, and it's because you can leverage off of the ground. And if you get your biceps big enough, this is a kind of cheat learned from Bill Kazmaier, is you build up your biceps because you can leverage your forearms off of it, or you can leverage your forearms off your biceps. So make your biceps big, make your forearms big, and you've got an extra point of contact that you can kind of push off of when it comes to performing the bench press. And then we finished off the day, and we're at 16,562 steps right now. And I'm just waiting for time to pass between my second to last meal and my last meal of the day. So I tried kimchi for the first time. And so on my meal plan, I've got either sauerkraut or kimchi as options of fermented foods. that I'm allowed to eat with certain meals at certain times of the day to kind of optimize my digestion so that I can get the correct nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients at the correct times throughout the day so I can have proper metabolism and energy production throughout the day to optimize how I perform and how my internal organs are, because internal organ function is very important to lifting. Your top end volume and strength is determined by your liver health. Your top end recovery is determined by your heart health, and your lungs. Those are important too, but those are almost like secondary to your heart and liver. Kidneys as well too. Kidneys help with um, uh, recovery, because if they're functioning properly, you're able to expel toxins from your liver. I think that's the pathway. I'm not a biologist or a doctor or anything. I'm just a large man who lifts heavy weights on occasion. And you guys are watching this YouTube video, which instantly makes me an expert on it because you guys are listening to what I'm saying. So you actually got these like tiny little unicorns on, like you've got a mouth, and like your entire insides are just this massive like environment for tiny little unicorns to dance around. And when you eat food, these tiny little unicorns, they kind of swarm whatever you eat, and they eat what you eat themselves. And then when they poop out their magic dust, that's when you get energy built up in your system. That's how you get energy. It's entirely unicorn poop and unicorn farts. But anyways, it was a pretty simple training day. It was stability and glycolic response training. So a lot of 45-second constant work, short rest periods, and a lot of things working on the stabilizers, those small muscle groups, to kind of raise the lower end, the limiters of my lifting journey, so that I can be better despite any sort of messing up on my own part. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and my dick's bigger than yours, obviously. Trust me, I'm a man on the internet. Everything I say is valid and true. Suck my dick, everyone. Patty out.